Good morning and good afternoon to those joining us from other time zone. Welcome to the 2025 Capstone Conference hosted by University of California, San Diego, Reddy School of Management and the Master of Professional Accountancy program. I'm Professor Minesi Tingekum, joined by my colleague Jim Dioid, Executive Director of the MPAc program. We're also joined by our exceptional TAs, Stacy Kang, Sierra Ula, whose leadership and support have been instrumental throughout this capstone experience. Over the next 2 days, you will hear boardroom-ready insights from a remarkable group of graduate students, the product of rigorous research and focused preparation. These are teams investing in the future, building resilient and sustainable growth, highlighting how boards navigate strategy, oversight, and innovation in an increasingly complex world. Students panel will tackle AI in M&A, ESG assurance, blockchain governance, audit ethics, and more, all grounded in SEC and PCOB guidance with real-world takeaways for boardroom and leadership teams. We're very grateful to our key supporters and partners, including Apple, PwC, Deloitte, EY, KPMG, Moss Adams, RSM, BDO, and many more, whose partnership help power this program and inspire the next generation of professional leaders. Now close your tabs, put on your best headphones, and join us in celebrating learning, leadership, and the future of the profession. Welcome to the 2025 Capstone Conference. Let's begin. Today's session will be on trust, tech, and transparency, covering how board strategy at the intersection of ESG, AI, and cybersecurity prevail. We see, based on market research, that more than 70% of corporate boards today cite cyber risk and data ethics as top governance priority in the face of rapid digital transformation. Today's panel is going to talk about the convergence of ESG reporting, AI system, and cybersecurity regulation. The team will explore board-level framework for integrated oversight, address algorithm bias and cloud security risk, and share strategy for building digital trust in a high-stake reporting environment. I'm delighted to welcome Omer Bazutsku to our virtual stage at the Reddy School of Management. Omer will facilitate today's panel discussion with his teammates. Omer, thank you so much. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Manas. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation titled Trust, Tech, and Transparency. We are presenting this as a part of our Master's Professional Accountancy program. And in the webinar here at University of California, San Diego at Reddy School of Management, over the next few minutes, we'll explore how companies and their board members are navigating the challenges and the opportunities that arise where environmental, social, governance goals meet rapidly advancing technologies like artificial intelligence, all while addressing the growing demands of cybersecurity and digital trust. So we'll now move into the agenda. We'll start with a little bit of introduction to give you a sense of what we're going to be talking about. Then we'll move at the risk at the board level. There will be accounting and frameworks. 4 will be a case study. 5th will be implications. 6th will be best practices. And later on, we'll just conclude of all the things that we'll be talking about. I'm going to introduce our panel. The first panelist is Yo-Ye Yu. Second is Yufan Shen. Third is Eric Fei. It's Kiwoo, Omer Basatkumi, Sherry Huang, and Yul Lin. And now everyone's going to introduce themselves to give us some background.
Thanks, Omer. My name is Yue Yu. I graduated from Wenzhou University and earned a bachelor's degree in accounting. Now I'm studying accounting from UC San Diego's Masters of Professional Accountancy program, and now I'm looking for a job.
Hi, this is Yufan Shen. I graduated from Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University and received a bachelor degree in accounting, and I will still earn a master's degree in accounting from UC San Diego's MPAc program in this year, and I have made the decision to continue pursuing a higher education.
Hi, this is Eric Fay. I graduated from UCSD with a Bachelor in Business Economics, and I'm continuing my education at this institution for the Master of Professional Accountancy program. And after graduation, I'm going to work at LIMI as an audit associate.
Hi, my name is Ke Wu. I graduated from Hangzhou Electronic Science and Technology University, and my major is accounting. Now I'm completing my master in accounting from UC San Diego's MPAc program. After graduation, I will go to NetEase.
Hello, my name is Omar Basuko. I'm a UCS alumni. I graduated with a BS degree in Business Economics. I'm currently doing the Masters of Professional Accountancy program, and I'll be starting at KPMG San Diego office as a full-time audit associate.
Hi, my name is Sherry Huang. I graduated from UC San Diego with a Bachelor in Business Psychology. I'm also completing the Master's Professional Accountancy program. And then I've accepted an offer in EY San Francisco office as audit position.
Hi, my name is Hugh Lin, and I graduated from University of Kansas with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting degree. I will earn a master degree in accounting from UC San Diego Master of Professional Accountancy program, and I'm currently exploring job and academic opportunities in San Diego. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yue Yue. I will start the introduction part and talk about the background of ESG, AI, and cybersecurity, and why are ESG, AI, and cybersecurity a concern to the board. As we know, ESG means environmental, social, and governance. It originated from the 2006 United Nations Principles for Responsible Investment, which first integrated ESG into financial evaluations. And it's important to know that there is a trend. Companies with higher ESG ratings tend to outperform peers, showing higher returns, lower risk, and better access to capital. So, to attract investors and take real actions, some companies start to report their ESG practice under specific guidelines. AI means artificial intelligence. It appears as the development of computer systems. AI can perform complex tasks and contain various technologies, including the well-known machine learning and deep learning. Nowadays, it's popular to use AI technology in the workplace. For example, in recent years, KPMG started to use Audit Chat, a Gen AI assistant to help auditors improve their audit quality. In short, people can use AI to improve productivity, but AI may also generate some incorrect answers due to the wrong information provided by datasets. As for cybersecurity, it refers to technologies or policies for preventing cyber attacks or mitigating the impact. It has a history you can see in this graph. In 1987, cybersecurity emerged, and from the 2000s, cyber threats has become more and more diversified, while people invent new antivirus methods to protect digital devices. So, why are these risks a concern to companies or firms? We conclude reasons for each part. For ESG reporting, it's beneficial for companies to do that. However, it has some problems because ESG practice is often costly and can be very complex. Companies still face challenges for using AI. Issues include data privacy, some bias, and ethical considerations in AI deployment. As for cybersecurity, It's not a concern itself, but it is necessary for companies to control cybersecurity risk because it can prevent risks of being attacked by various cyber threats. And if a company fails to do that, it will face unwilling business losses, data leaking, or even outcomes stolen. Next, my teammate Yufan will talk about what ESG, AI, and cybersecurity mean for the board and how these concepts can integrate together.
Thanks, Yue. This is Yufan, and I will be presenting the definition and framing section and establish why ESG, AI, and cybersecurity can no longer be treated as separate conversations, and what this convergence means for cooperate boards. Let's begin with a brief definition. ESG reporting refers to the disclosure of a company's environmental, social, and governance performance. What began as voluntary narrative-style updates is now increasingly standardized, data-driven, and regulated, especially under the SEC's climate rule and the EU CSRD. Artificial intelligence automates analysis and insight generation at scale. In the ESG context, it's used to process large data sets, detect anomalies, and accelerate reporting, but also introduces risk around bias, hallucination, and explainability. Cybersecurity safeguards ESG systems from data collection to storage against attacks or manipulation. As ESG data becomes digital and cloud-based, cyber threats become a direct threat to reporting integrity. While each of these areas have its own function, they now operate as a system of independences, and that's where new risks begin to emerge. Let's explore how ESG reporting is being reshaped by technology and why this introduces new vulnerabilities. Modern ESG data is collected from diverse digital sources like carbon census, HR platforms, supplier audits, and whistleblowing channels. These data points feed into AI tools designed to clean, aggregate, and benchmark information. Companies rely on these tools to reduce dashboards, identify material risk, and generate disclosure-ready insights. But this automation comes at a cost. AI systems are only as reliable as their inputs. If those inputs are incomplete, biased, or manipulated, whether due to error or attack, the system may generate results that appear legitimate but are fundamentally flawed. This is where hallucination become a concern. AI-generated ESG outputs can be confidently run, overstating emissions reductions, misclassifying supplier risk, or generating flawed ESG scores. Worse still, these tools are often integrated into cloud-based platforms, meaning data is constantly exposed to evolving cyber threats. From unauthorized access to data corruption, cloud vulnerabilities can directly impact ESG reporting accuracy, and AI will continue to operate regardless of whether the data it is using has been compromised. That's why we develop a visual model showing the ESG data lifecycle. The collection from the devices, platforms, and human input, and the processing is AI model structure and interpret data. For the storage, the cloud platforms host and update records. And finally, this disclosure, the final reports are released to stakeholders. Each state has its own risk exposure, and a weakness at one point can ripple through the rest. So where do these risks intersect, and why does this matter? Through the research, we found that ESG, AI, and cybersecurity risks no longer exist in isolation. Instead, they form a risk ecosystem where failures are increasingly interconnected. For the functional overlap, the ESG reporting depends on AI to manage complexity and volume. But if ESG data sources are weak, AI models will amplify errors, and then the infrastructure overlap. The AI tools rely on cloud-based systems to access and process ESG data. These systems are also targets for cyber threats, and any breach can compromise data without detection. And finally, the oversight gap. The governance is often fragmented. ESG leads may not question how models work. IT teams may secure system but overlook reporting needs. The internal audit may not be equipped to assess algorithm reliability. We also can see risk convergence in real-world processes. For instance, the AI-driven ESG scores increasingly influence internal decisions like capital allocation or bonus structure. But what happens when those scores are based on inaccurate or manipulated data? A single breach or unnoticed data flow could have ripple effects across financial reporting, investor relations, and regulatory compliance. So another emerging issue is a shift towards a continuous ESG analytics. The AI model now run in real time, producing rolling ESG updates, yet many boards still review ESG performance quarterly or annually. This mismatch between data and governance creates a gap in visibility and in accountability. So let's take a step further. What kind of risks are emerging systematically? So we maps three converging system patterns. One is automation without verification. AI tools generate ESG disclosures without adequate human review. The board sees only the final output and how it was derived. And then the cyber AI feedback loop. When cybersecurity issues corrupt input data, the AI models unknowingly process flow data and produce misleading reports. Finally, the shadow accountability. Because like the ESG, cyber, and AI often sit in separate departments, no one owns a full data lifecycle. This leads to governance blind spots. These aren't just operational flaws, they are structure issues that require board-level attention. Boards must shift focus from managing individual risk events to monitoring how risks are embedded in system design. So, what should boards actually be doing? There are three core areas that demand more from the boards. The first one, accountability. Boards must ensure the responsibility that clearly mapped across ESG, tech, and risk teams. Where system cross functions, clarity disappears. Who owns the model? And who approved the data sources? And if a disclosure fails, who is answerable? So, especially in companies that outsource ESG tools or use AI as a service, the responsibility can get blurred. Boards must close these gaps. Second is the governance. Traditional ESG governance focuses on what goes into the report. Now, governance must cover how the report is made, including model transparency, update frequency, testing protocols, and third-party AI vendor risk. Boards also needs assess whether they themselves have enough technical fluency or whether they need new expertise in their audit or risk committees. The last one is assurance. The ESG disclosures rely on AI requires more than standard checks. Boards should push for full audit trails, model documentations, and assurance that covers both data and algorithm. The limited assurance is no longer enough when the systems behind ESG are dynamic, complex, and often opaque. Finally, how should boards evolve from oversight to foresight? Our the new slide outlines how the boards can upgrade their role, like move from reviewing disclosures to understanding how they are produced, shift from checking cybersecurity protocols to embedding cyber risk into ESG audit frameworks. Require real-time ESG risk dashboards that reflect AI-driven data shifts. So this means we should establish a cross-functional working group that spans ESG, tech, and risk, then providing AI and cybersecurity upskilling for board members, then finally demanding integrated reporting structure that connect performance, process, and protection. So to conclude, the ESG, AI, and cybersecurity are no longer independent operational areas. They now function as a single system of risk and opportunity. If boards continue to treat them separately, governance failures are inevitable. So true oversight requires integration across people, processes, and platforms. It means asking how data is sourced, how models make decisions, and how secure the underlying infrastructure really is. So let's move on to the next part for my colleague Eric, expanding his great research on accounting framework.
Thank you, Yifan. This is Eric, and I'm going to dig into how legal and regulatory frameworks are shaping the way businesses approach ESG, AI, and cybersecurity. These policies not only emphasize the importance of the development in the area that we focus on, but also provide us a clear path and extra assurance in corporate governance and risk management. In the current US market, there is no unified or mandatory standard for ESG disclosure. Although ESG considerations are becoming increasingly important to investors, stakeholders, and the broader public, the federal government has not yet implemented a comprehensive ESG reporting framework. The most closely related regulatory development is the SEC's proposed climate disclosure rule, which would require companies to disclose material climate-related risks and their potential financial impacts. However, this proposal remains under review and is subject to ongoing debate and legal challenges, leaving its final form and implementation timeline uncertain. In contrast, other markets, particularly the European Union, have made significant progress in formalizing ESG reporting requirements. The European Sustainability Reporting Standards, recently introduced under the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, offered a detailed framework for sustainability disclosure. These standards mandate that companies disclose not only their environmental and climate impacts, but also social and governance related matters. All these are all within a unified structure grounded in principles like double materiality and value chain transparency. The ESRS framework can serve as a valuable reference point for the US market. While direct adoption may not be feasible due to regulatory and market differences, many of the ESRS core concepts, such as integrated reporting, risk-based disclosures, and forward-looking sustainability strategies, can be adapted to suit the US context. As the US continues to develop its own ESG disclosure landscape, looking to comprehensive frameworks like the ESRS can inform more consistent, transparent, and investor-relevant reporting standards. AI, much like ESG disclosure, is rapidly emerging as a critical area of focus, and it is facing many of the same challenges. Currently, there is no universally accepted implementation standard for AI governance. In the absence of AI-specific regulations, organizations are relying on existing audit and control standards to manage and assess AI-related risks. While this approach may work temporarily, it leaves significant regulatory ethical gaps that both the government and the public must address. It is therefore essential to stay informed about upcoming developments in AI-specific regulations and guidance. AI presents two primary categories of challenges. One of them is technical challenge, such as data quality, algorithm biases, and system reliability. The other one is ethical challenge, including fairness, accountability, and transparency. Fortunately, the Coastal Committee has published frameworks and internal control guidelines that can be adapted to AI use cases. In parallel, various organizations and governments are developing their own AI ethical codes. While these differ in form and scope, they often share common principles rather than adopting them wholesale. We should aim to tailor these emerging ethical concepts into specific needs and risk profiles for each industry. In contrast to the emerging fields of ESG and AI governance, the cybersecurity landscape has a more defined direction, largely due to the mature and continually updated frameworks provided by regulatory and standard setting bodies such as the NIST and the SEC. The NIST cybersecurity framework, especially following its recent update to version 2.0, offers a comprehensive, flexible approach to managing cybersecurity risks. It outlines clear, actionable steps across 5 core functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. These functions guide organizations in not only preventing cyber threats, but also in building resilient systems capable of recovery and continuity after incidents have occurred. The framework is widely adapted across industry and can be tailored to fit organizations of varying sizes and complexity, making it a cornerstone for aligning innovation with security and sustainability. In addition, the SEC Cybersecurity Disclosure Rule finalized in 2023 adds a new layer of regulatory oversight by requiring publicly traded companies to disclose material cybersecurity incidents and provide information about their cybersecurity risk management, strategy, and governance. This rule aims to improve transparency and ensure that investors are properly informed about cyber risks that could affect the company's performance or reputation. Next, I'll have our colleague Amr to further expand more on real-life experiences based on case studies.
Thank you so much, Eric. Now let's dive into our first case study. So let's look at the case review of NRSYS. So a global leader in industrial battery manufacturing and energy storage. NRSYS has taken a major step by integrating generative AI into its sustainability and ESG reporting process. So why is this significant? Because managing ESG data today has become increasingly complex. The amount of data companies must handle has grown dramatically, and regulations are tightened worldwide. By leveraging Gen AI, NRSYS can handle this massive volume of data more efficiently, ensuring that its ESG reports are not only accurate, but also fully compliant with evolving regulatory standards. The strategic use of AI allows NRSYS to stay ahead of the curve, improve the quality of its sustainability reporting, and strengthen its reputation with investors, regulators, and stakeholders who are paying closer attention to ESG performance. Facing the challenges of managing extensive ESG data across its global operations, NRSYS turned to AI-powered solutions to strengthen its data collection and reporting systems. Specifically, the company implemented ESG Flow, a platform that uses machine learning to extract and process data from utility bills across 180 sites worldwide. So, what does this achieve? The system automatically pulls key details like usage amounts and costs, and importantly, it flags anomalies in the data. This is extremely important when we look at the regulatory landscape of industry like this. If anomalies are not caught within a certain period of time, there can be severe consequences, such as SEC penalties. So when we look at the data traceability and auditability, they're also improved. This only not reduces the manual work, but also improves data traceability and auditability, as I said, making NRSYS reporting system more reliable, transparent, and aligned with best practices. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Now I'm going to hand things over to Kivu, who will talk us through the key implications of this development and what they mean for the boards and organization moving forward.
Thank you, Omar, for your analysis of the case studies. My name is Ke Wu, and I will be discussing the audit implications of the convergence between ESG, AI, and cybersecurity. As mentioned earlier by Yufan, ESG data is now often processed using AI technologies and stored in cloud-based platforms, which also brings cybersecurity risk into the equation. From an audit perspective, this creates a new kind of challenge. Traditionally, audits focused on financial statements and relied on well-understood, structured data. But now, ESG data may be generated by machine learning models, and auditors must assess whether this data is reliable, complete, and free from manipulation or bias. What happens if an AI model hallucinates ESG metrics or flags the wrong red flags? Or if a cyber breach corrupts ESG data in the cloud? These risks are no longer hypothetical, they are happening. This convergence means that internal audit functions need to update their risk frameworks, and external auditors must develop new procedures to assess AI-generated evidence, especially when ESG disclosures play a role in investor decision-making. At the board level, this also raises questions of governance. Who is responsible when AI goes wrong? And how can the audit process maintain credibility? Moving on, let's talk about assurance levels, which is a key audit concern when AI is involved in ESG reporting. Currently, most ESG reports receive limited assurance. This means the auditor performs some procedures, but not enough to provide a high level of confidence in the disclosures. Limited assurance might be acceptable when ESG data is manually reported and relatively simple. But when AI systems are involved, especially those that are complex or non-transparent, the risk increases significantly. If an AI system generates ESG data and that data is only lightly tested, there is a much greater chance of undetected bias, errors, or even manipulation. That's why boards should consider pushing for reasonable assurance, a higher level of assurance that requires more rigorous testing and provides stronger credibility to investors and regulators. This is especially critical in jurisdictions where ESG reporting is becoming more regulated. As Eric mentioned earlier, both the SEC and EU are moving toward mandatory ESG disclosures, and those disclosures will be scrutinized. Reasonable assurance will help reduce litigation risk and protect the company's reputation. So how should boards respond to these involving audit risks? We have identified 3 critical actions boards should take to maintain trust and uphold audit integrity in the face of rapidly advancing ESG technologies. First, demand explainable AI in ESG audit tools. Boards must ensure that any AI systems involved in ESG reporting or internal audit are transparent and interpretable. It's not enough for AI to generate results. Auditors must be able to understand how those results were produced. Without this, it becomes impossible to validate the data or test for hidden biases, logic errors, or manipulation. Explainability should be a minimum requirement, not an afterthought. Second, push for reasonable assurance, not just a limited assurance. As discussed earlier, limited assurance is still the norm for ESG reports. But when AI is used to process or generate disclosures, that low level of scrutiny becomes risky. Errors can scale quickly, and shallow reviews are more likely to miss them. Boards should set expectations for higher quality, more comprehensive audits that resemble the level of assurance given to financial statements. This provides greater confidence to stakeholders and reduces the risk of regulatory or reputational fallout. Third, establish clear accountability for AI-related reporting risk. When an AI system produces inaccurate ESG disclosures, boards must know exactly who is responsible. Is it the IT department, the ESG reporting team, executive management? These lines of accountability need to be defined clearly in advance. Not discovered after failure has already occurred. Responsibility gaps create serious audit blind spots and weaken governance structures. In the end, audit quality in this new environment will depend not just on the tools, but on the governance mindset. With explainable AI, reasonable assurance, and clear ownership of risk, companies can build ESG reporting systems that are not only efficient, but also trustworthy and resilient in the eyes of regulators, auditors, and the public. This wraps up my section. Next, Sherry will walk us through the best practices.
Thank you, Ke, on the audit implications on the risk coming from ESG data through AI and cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And now we want to shift toward the best practices on what should boards do differently. We'll have 3 focus areas. First, we need a structure, which is using the COSO framework on the governance models that reflect how these risks are connected. Second, we need a targeted strategy by prioritizing the areas of the greatest exposure, which is the ESG disclosure. And third, we need tools being new technologies that support transparency, oversight, and reliability. Beginning with the structure, organizations may still manage ESG, AI, and cybersecurity risk in different parts, but we have been discussing that these areas are deeply interrelated. An AI model might distort ESG data. A cyber breach could compromise disclosure systems. If we oversee these areas separately, we create blind spots. That's why we need integrated oversight, and COSO framework helps improve this. It starts with the tone at the top. When leaders consistently emphasize that ESG, AI, and cyber risk must be managed together, it helps drive clear alignments throughout the organization. Next, we need a strong control environment using in this ESG reporting. These tools are often complex, yet these disclosures are important to investors, regulators, and the public. We must treat them like financial statements with defined rules, internal controls, and clear ownership. We also need a cross-functional risk assessment process. This means identifying weaknesses and errors that produce inaccurate ESG data. It means understanding what happens if ESG systems are breached. We have to evaluate these risks altogether. We also need to monitor and report with integrity. We need automated monitoring, internal audit involvement, and independent assurance that's built into the ESG reporting process. After having the structure in place, the next question is, where should the focus begin? That is ESG reporting, because this is where the risk from AI and cybersecurity exist. ESG data is now an important public reporting and often generated or processed by AI systems. This means any error, biases, or security failures could have serious reputational and compliance impacts to a business. That's why we need to prioritize ESG oversight at the board level. We need to push for reasonable assurance on ESG reporting standards. Most ESG disclosures only have limited review, but when AI is integrated where the report or data is flown through multiple automated systems, organizations need to advocate for stronger evidence-based testing, just like with financial audits. Next, we must assess ESG reporting processes. This means conducting simulations to see what would happen if a key system failed, if data was manipulated, or if ESG metrics were misclassified by AI. Practicing these scenarios helps identify weak areas, foster communication, and build response plans before significant cost occurs. We must have ESG understanding across the business. ESG data is important throughout the whole organization, and every department must understand its role, the processes, and operate under shared expectations. Organizations should make sure there is training and documentation requirement in place to support this. So finally, let's talk about tools, because even with a strong structure and focused strategy, we need systems that support the goals. If AI is involved in ESG reporting and is increasingly used across organizations, then we must be able to understand, question, and validate these systems. We need to keep detailed records for technologies used for ESG reports. That means selecting technology tools that are explainable and safe. We need to understand how a model is generating the data in order to support it. Boards should demand transparency in these systems. Every result should be traceable on what the data was used, what assumptions were applied, and what transformations took place. These reports protect the company on their disclosures and help to respond quickly if errors were discovered. We should test the AI system. AI systems should be able to detect unusual trends, missing data, or logic errors before they reach the public. These alerts help ensure greater oversight and be proactive and preventive. Reliable tools don't just improve ESG reporting, they make it sustainable, secure, and trustworthy. To close our discussion, our next speaker, Yu Lo, will walk us through the key takeaways and wrap up the presentation for today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for staying with us through this important conversation. Appreciate to my colleague Sherry. Just let us dive into the best practice should carry out by the board. As we wrap up our session, I'd like to leave you with a few key reflections on what boards must do now and how they can lead in this age of digitally enabled risk. Today, ESG reporting is no longer just about ethics or sustainability. It's about data. And that data is now processed by AI, stored in cloud platforms, and vulnerable to cyber threats. These three domains, ESG, AI, and cybersecurity, have converged into a single high-stake risk landscape. That means broad can't afford to view them in silos. They must govern them together. We've seen that AI helped automate ESG reporting, improving speed and scale. But if the AI model is trained on biased data, or if the platform is breached by a cyber attack, the outcome can be regulatory violations, reputational harm, or financial losses. Trust is lost, and that's very hard to regain. So what should directors do today? As my colleague Ke has already expanded a lot in the implication, let me highlight 5 urgent actions. First, establish cross-functional oversight. ESG, IT, risk, and audit teams can no longer operate independently. Boards must bring them together to create unified governance structures. Second, demand explainable AI. If AI is used to generate ESG disclosures, the board should ask, can we explain how this output was made? If not, it's a red flag. Third, push for reasonable assurance, not just limited checks. Many ESG disclosures today undergo limited assurance, which is minimum and not enough when AI is involved. Boards should advocate for deeper audits. First, set a tone at the top. Leadership behavior shapes the organization's ethical foundation. If the boards take ESG, AI, and cybersecurity seriously, the rest of the company will too. Fifth, integrate cybersecurity protocols into ESG oversight. Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue. It protects the integrity of ESG data and the reliability of AI outputs. There are practical ways to put these actions into motion. As my colleague Sherry mentioned, boards should look to the COSO framework to build integrated oversight. The structure provides internal control principles that apply across ESG, AI, and cybersecurity, ensuring ethical, transparent decision-making. As my colleague Eric revealed, they should also adopt protected, reliable technologies, AI systems that meet NIST and OECD standards, and audit platforms that offer traceable, explainable logic. While these actions address the present, boards also need a long-term mindset. As my colleague Sherry just mentioned, we suggest 3 guiding principles for the year ahead. First, develop unified governance frameworks. Boards should build policies that evolve with technology, adapting to AI advancement and new cyber threats. Second, promote data integrity and ethical innovation. Good governance is not about resisting technology, it's about using it responsibly. Third, lead with transparency and trust. In an era of hyper digital disclosures, companies that lead with integrity will outperform those who hide behind complexity. To conclude, the message is simple but urgent. Trust is no longer built just on good intentions. It's built on systems, it's built on accountability, and it's built on the board's ability to govern at the intersection of ESG, AI, and cybersecurity. This is not just a challenge, it's an opportunity for boards to lead boldly and build companies that are not only compliant, but also trusted, ethical, and future ready. Thank you again for your time today. We truly appreciate your engagement. I will go back to Jim and Manas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sheila. Thank you, team. That was a very insightful conversation and very timely as we look at some of the key priority of the board today. So thank you everyone that joined the webinar. We appreciate you all. We hope the discussion offered practical, forward-looking ideas for critical governance challenges today. The replay will be available shortly on Ready's YouTube channel. For presentation material, please feel free to contact our Capstone program team. And on behalf of our students, faculty, and community, thank you all for participating into the 2025 MPAc Capstone Conference. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.